In this part of our tutorial, we're going to take another look at integers, but in Android this time. So we're going to do that by declaring and initializing a couple of integer variables. We're then going to perform some arithmetic operations on these variables we've assigned values, and we're going to reassign some values so that these variables take on new numbers. This part of the tutorial will again discuss integer variables, but we'll be using Android instead of iOS this time. So let's use a slightly different example from before, because in iOS we had the example of a bank account. Now let's think about a game or a simulator where you have a character and he or she has a certain position. So let's have a starting point at an arbitrary 0, and let's have an integer that is a position. So again, we have our variable position, and it's of type integer. So just to recap, integers are non-decimal numbers. They can be positive, negative, or 0, and they have a range of just over 2 billion or negative 2 billion, but we won't worry about going over that. So for our sakes and purposes, just think of integer numbers as positive, negative, or 0 numbers with no decimal place. So we have a position, and let's say our character is at a position of 5. So this is maybe 5 blocks forward from 0, 5 units. And maybe our character has a stride length. So let's call this stride. So this is perhaps how many steps this character can cover with each iteration, and we'll say this is 2. In fact, we'll give this, let's say this is 6, because otherwise how did he or she get to position 5? So let's perform some operations. So we have two integers here. Let's position and stride, and let's perform some arithmetic. So let's say our new position is our current position, and we're going to have the character just stride forwards once. So now we have our old position, which was 6, and we're striding forward 2 steps, so our new position should be 8, and we're storing that in position. So let's just uncomment this, and we'll assign this to print out position, and again we have to convert this to a string just like in iOS, because the text field wants a string variable rather than an integer. So let's go ahead and run this now. So basically we're just changing the position by taking the old position, adding 2, and storing that in the new position, and we get 8 printed out, which is exactly correct because we've moved forwards 2 steps from 6. Very good. Now let's say we move 1 step backwards now. So let's go ahead and see how that's changed. So we'll stop this and run it again. Now this time we're subtracting instead of adding. So we've moved back 2 spaces to put us at position 4. Now, what if we were to do this? What if our character, let's just stop running this, was to move forwards 3 steps, and each stride length is 2. So we would have to have a 3 times whatever our stride length is, and we're stepping forwards this time. So we're taking our old position, or our current position, and we're stepping forward 3 times. This is going to be 3 times our stride length of 2, and that should lead us to a new position, which we'll print out. So we'll just go ahead and run this now. And on the phone, it's a good way to display where we're going to be, and we get 12. So we get our 6 plus 3 times our stride length, which we've given the value 2, so 3 times 2, so this is 6, our position is 6, so we get 12 because of 6 plus 6, and that's stored in position. Very good. And now to demonstrate the final operator, let's say that we have our current position and we want to half what we are, or we want to be half as far from the starting point as we are right now. So we want our position divided by 2. So basically we have a character at a certain position, and let's say he or she is, in this case, 6 steps from home. We want him or her to be only 3 steps from home now, so we want to divide his or her position by 2. And we'll go ahead and rerun it. And if all goes well, again, we should have 3. And we get 3 printed out there. So these are some basic operations that we can perform with integers, and we've also had a reassignment. So integers are pretty much used wherever you don't need decimal places. I prefer to use them to floats and doubles, and also if you want to get technical, they take up a little less memory. So where possible, stick to integers, but if you need those decimal places, use floats or doubles, which we'll talk about in the next video. In this part of our tutorial, we introduced integers in Android. So we did this by discussing a game state where we have a character with a position, and we performed operations to move this character forwards or backwards depending on stride length and the current position. So by now you should be able to perform arithmetic operations on integers and explain where they might be used in applications or in everyday life.